الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ونريد أن نمن على الذين استضعفوا في الأرض ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. My dear loved ones, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Many people ask in this time of our Mawla's occultation, they ask, what is it that we benefit from the Imam in his ghaibah? Are we benefiting from the Imam in his ghaibah? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Are we benefiting from our Mawla in his ghaibah? What is the benefit of the ghaibah? And this is a valid question for some, because when they look around, they see a world full of turmoil, many challenges that our community faces, a situation that tests our iman, a situation that tests our beliefs, my dear loved ones. And we look to the words of the Ma'sumin alayhim as-salam to answer this question, because we truly need to have an answer prepared for ourselves first, especially if our children ask this question: what's the benefit of the Imam if he's in occultation? If he's not amongst us here, I can see him physically and shake his hand. And we look to the words of the Holy Prophet first and foremost, my dear loved ones. The companion asks the Prophet, the companion Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, he asks the Prophet, and this is a riwayah that Al-Shaykh al-Saduq transmits on behalf of Jabir ibn Abdullah, on behalf of the Prophet, that Jabir asks the Prophet, when the Prophet was talking about the awaited Savior, the Mahdi, the Qa'im, he asks him, will the Shia, will the Mu'mineen, will the Muwaleen, will they benefit from him in his ghaibah? And let's look to the answer of the Prophet. He says, I walladhi ba'athani bin nubuwah. Yes, by he who sent me as a prophet, they would benefit from him. They would benefit from him. لَيَنْتَفِعُونَ بِهِ وَيَسْتَضِيئُونَ بِنُورِ وِلَايَتِهِ فِي غِيَابِهِ كَانْتِفَاعِ النَّاسِ بِالشَّمْسِ وَإِنْ جَلَّلَهَا السَّحَابِ. They will benefit from him in his absence, in the same way that we benefit from the sun when it's behind the clouds. And we'll come back to this analogy and what it means. What does it mean that the Mawla is like the benefit of the sun behind the clouds? We'll come back to this meaning. First of all, I'd like to ask you all a couple questions, quick questions. For us, is it important to know exactly what the Imam is doing during time of ghaibah? For example, in his day-to-day activities, is it important for me to know exactly what he's doing at any given moment? This is a question I'm asking you guys. It's not rhetorical. Yes or no? Is it important to know that? No. It's not important to know exactly what he's doing on a day-to-day basis during ghaibah. You see, some of us, we have this thought, we say, what's going on with the Imam? I want to know what he's doing every single day. I want to know where he's coming and going. And I'll give you an example, my dear loved ones. In the beginning of Islam, the Prophet himself, he had many companions. And they were of far and wide places within the Arabian Peninsula. Was it important for a Muslim, for example, who was living in Yemen, to know what the Prophet was doing every single day in Medina? Yes or no? Exactly. It was not important. Therefore, we should not be concerned in this aspect of the Imam's ghaibah. He's in occultation, and we're concerned about what he's doing every single day. This is not one of the tenets that we believe is important for us to actually believe he's our Imam, for us to know this fact. And you see, even for example, in the time of Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, where did Al-Imam al-Sadiq live? Medina. Ahsant. There were Shia from all across. There were Shia, for example, in Qom. The Shia of Qom, was it important for them to know what Al-Imam al-Sadiq was doing every single day? Or did they also believe in him as their Imam? They believed in him as their Imam. So this is an answer to that question of whether or not we need to know every single aspect of what's going on in the Imam's life during the time of ghaibah. Secondly, my dear loved ones, is there a relevance between not being somewhere and being able to get something done? If you aren't in a specific place, can you still carry out a mission in that place? No? Are you sure? Yes? Yes? I'll give you an example. Right now, how many of you have worked remote? Worked from home? I want to see some hands. In your lifetime, who has worked remote from home? Ahsant. And you see, when you work from home, you don't work at your office, but you're able to still accomplish your tasks. You're still able, from far, to communicate with others, part of your team. You're able to listen to what your team members are talking about, what your team leaders are instructing. And this is not only on a work level, my dear loved ones. This is in a grand scale. You don't always have to be in a specific place to accomplish a mission in that place. This can be implied on many levels. Internationally, personally, on a community level. Most military leaders, they are engaging in strategy and tactics from far, not there in the field. My dear loved ones, we have to understand that the Imam, sure, he may not be in a specific place, in a specific time, but that does not take away from the fact that he can accomplish his mission in that place, my dear loved ones. And the Imam is not necessarily hidden from us in the way that we have a perception of. The ghaibah, some of us may understand that the ghaibah means that he's completely hidden. Some may think even physically, his body, every part of him is hidden. Maybe in a different dimension or something like that. Or that he exists somewhere in the depths of the earth, somewhere you can't really see. This is not the understanding of ghaibah. The understanding of ghaibah, my dear loved ones, is that it's possible the Mawla is physically there amongst you. And we have many traditions, many narrations that state he goes to the Hajj, he witnesses the Hajj, he attends the Hajj. And where will he actually declare his message? In Masjid al-Haram, amongst people. So it's possible that you've encountered the Mawla, but the fact of ghaibah is that you don't know his identity. Meaning, if I see him, I don't know who he is by person. Because he has not revealed his identity to me. There's a veil. There's a sitar on that. There's an understanding that, yes, he's in ghaibah, he's in occultation, but that doesn't mean he doesn't exist amongst you. He possibly does exist amongst us. Maybe you have encountered him, but because his identity is hidden for his safety, for the purpose of his mission that he needs to carry out, my dear loved ones. Because if we were all ready for his reappearance, he would have returned. It's on us to make ourselves ready, make this earth ready for his return, my dear loved ones. So that's the understanding of ghaibah. And this is not something that's foreign to the teachings of the religion of Islam, to the teachings of the Holy Quran, my dear loved ones. The holy Imams, they are the heirs of the prophets, are they not? They're the heirs of the prophets. When you read Ziyarat Warith, the ziyarah of Al-Mawla Abi Abdullah Al-Hussein, what is the passage that you begin with? As-salamu alayka ya waritha Adama, Safwatillah. As-salamu alayka ya waritha Nuhin, Nabiyullah. Until you get to As-salamu alayka ya waritha Muhammadin, Habibillah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Imams are the heirs of the prophets. But what did they inherit from them? What did they inherit? Their clothes? Did they inherit their materials, their money, their livestock? What did the Imams inherit from the prophets? They inherited their knowledge, their ilm, their akhlaq, their iman, their istiqamah, their wara', their steadfastness, their patience, their strength. This is what they inherited. And the Mawla, Sahib al-Amr, is not different than his grandfather, my dear loved ones, Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. When you see that he's inherited characteristics from Nuh alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prolonged his age, right? And some ask, how is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could prolong his age for this many years? Did he not do the same with Nuh? Nuh lived over 900 years, my dear loved ones. Every single day, preaching to his people. Preaching to his qawm. Do wajib, don't do haram. Praise one Lord. Do not associate lords with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remove yourself from idol worship and be dignified with tawheed. Istaghfiru rabbakum innahu kana ghaffara. Nuh says, I told my people, do istighfar, do istighfar. Because your Lord is one of perpetual forgiveness. Ghafir means he forgives you here and there. Ghaffar, perpetual forgiveness. I sin and I repent. I revert back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I change my ways. Again, we are not ma'sumin. We sin, we go back to Ghaffara. يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا. If you just have this tawbah, if you return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah would split the heavens for you and rain down His blessings, His mercy, His forgiveness. Istighfar. Istighfar means tawbah. Istighfar means I change myself, my nafs. I discipline my nafs. I tell my nafs when it needs to obey me, when it needs to obey Allah. Not that my nafs, I need to obey it and do what it asks me to do. And nafs al-ammara bis-su', my dear loved ones. And the Imam, he is in essence, in the same way, an inheritor of Yusuf alayhi salam. Why? Because you see, in the life of Yusuf, his brothers took him, they threw him in the well. After he was thrown in the well, he was sold as a slave. He was taken, he was raised by the minister of the Pharaoh. He was imprisoned. All of this transpired in his life. Did anyone at that time know it was Yusuf, the prophet? Did they know his identity? That he was Yusuf, the prophet? This is an understanding of ghaibah. Yusuf, he enacted great change in his community. not only from the aspect of religion and theology, but also even economically. He was able to save his community from perish, for how he was able to control the agriculture, control the way food was stored. This is the same way that the Mawla can accomplish his mission and his task in the time of Ghaibah. Ghaibah doesn't mean he's sitting around and he's doing nothing. This is the wrong understanding of Ghaibah. It doesn't mean that he's waiting for us. No, we're waiting for him, my dear loved ones. He's waiting for us to change. But us waiting makes us change. We spoke about this in the previous nights. Us waiting, that waiting is an active verb, my dear loved ones. So, Yusuf, even when his brothers come to him, they still didn't even know him. Until they figure it out. They say, "Are you Yusuf? Are you our brother?" This is what the Imam has inherited from the Prophet, my dear loved ones. This is the essence of his ghaibah. That he's amongst you, but you don't know his identity. His identity is hidden, my dear loved ones. One of the companions of Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, they ask him, what is it that we benefit from the Mawla and his ghaibah? فَكَيْفْ يَنْتَفِعُ النَّاسِ بِالْحُجَّةِ الْغَائِبِ الْمَسْتُورِ. How is it that the people in the time of ghaibah are benefiting from that hujjah, that proof of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's in occultation, that there is a veil upon him, there is a cover upon him? And he says, in the same way that the sun, the same way that we benefit from the sun behind the clouds. Again, he's repeating the message of his grandfather, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But what does this mean? Let us now begin to understand what it means to benefit from the sun behind the clouds. First and foremost, we spoke about this a few days ago. The solar system is called the solar system. Why? Because the sun is at the center of it. Would the solar system be changed if the sun is behind the clouds? The power of the solar system, the planets orbiting around that sun. No, ahsant. The sun is behind the clouds, but it's still doing its job. If you were to go outside in daytime, today was very cloudy, but you can still tell it's daytime, right? Scientific studies even have shown that even when it's sunny, even when it's cloudy, you still benefit from the properties of the sun. You receive vitamin D from the sun, even when it's cloudy, my dear loved ones. So from a scientific perspective, the sun is not essentially changed when it's behind the clouds, my dear loved ones. And the Prophet is painting a picture for us. He's painting a picture for us. You know why? You know, here the winter is very harsh. It's very cold, snow, and there's not a lot of sun. And when you feel cold, and that winter is prolonged, and even in days like this when it's cloudy and windy, you say, I wish the sun would come out. I can't wait until it's summertime. I can't wait until the sun emerges from the clouds. And you sit and you plan, oh, you know, when it's springtime, I'm going to do this. I'm going to clean outside. When it's springtime, I'm going to take this trip. When it's springtime, I'm going to plan this vacation. And you plan ahead just for the sun to reappear and reemerge. And for winter to subdue, to subside, my dear loved ones. And in the same way, we wait for our Mawla. The Prophet is painting a picture. You wait all winter for the sun to reemerge. Wait for your Mawla like that. Plan for your Mawla to come back like that. I plan I'm going to go on vacation in June because the sun is out. Have I planned for when the Mawla returns? Have I planned for how I can change my behavior before He returns? This is the essence of that picture that is being painted by the Ma'soomeen, my dear loved ones. You know, some people, when it becomes sunny in the middle of even closer to spring, they drop everything and they say, I'm just going to go outside. I'm just going to go and spend time outside. They're in the middle of work and they see the sun come out. I'm taking the rest of the day off. Are we willing to drop everything? Our job, our lives, our livelihood, our attachments, our worldly attachments, my business that I've grown over the years, that I feel like is my child, my baby. Am I willing to leave that in one instance? Am I willing to depart from my attachments to wealth, power, position, whatever it may be? Am I willing to depart from ghiba, from namima, from lying? This is how we have to understand the reappearance of our Mawla, my dear loved ones. And finally, this understanding of the sun behind the clouds. It's undeniable. The Mawla, His existence, that He's alive amongst us, because some may say, yeah, we believe in the Mahdi, but we don't believe that He's been born yet, perhaps. No, believing in Him that He's alive, He's amongst you. He's the son of Al-Imam Al-Askari alayhi salam. He's amongst the lineage of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. It's undeniable, like the sun is out behind the clouds. You can still see that it's daytime, my dear loved ones. The Imam, he writes a letter during the ghaibah to his second ambassador, Muhammad ibn Uthman. And he tells him the same exact thing that the Prophet and that Al-Imam Al-Sadiq alayhimus salam, they say that I am like the sun behind the clouds. And this gives us a level of high importance. We see that this statement is being repeated in the time of the Prophet. It was said in the time of Al-Imam Al-Sadiq, in the time of our Mawla, in his ghaibah, he writes to his ambassador. And this allows us to understand the importance of this message, that we must reiterate it. We must continuously apply it into our lives, my dear loved ones. As the followers of the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we believe that this earth cannot exist without a hujjah. A hujjah, either ghaib or lahir. But there is a hujjah on this earth. Otherwise, this earth would cease to exist, truly would cease to exist. Not from only a theological aspect, my dear loved ones, but even a natural aspect. Theologically, when there's no hujjah, people revert back to polytheism, people revert back to dhulm, people, they engage in great evil. Musa left for 40 days. What happened to his people? 40 days, what happened to his people? He came back, he saw they were worshipping a bull. 40 days, their hujjah was gone. Harun was there. But that hujjah that they had a tie to, that they had respected, understood as their hujjah, he left. They had not understood that Harun was the one that they must continue to follow. And therefore, they go astray. In 40 days, they become individuals that do not even engage in tawheed any longer. So the absence of a hujjah, my dear loved ones, in fact, it cannot happen. There has to be a hujjah, either a hujjah that is lahir, that you can see, or one that is ghaib, that is in occultation, that is unseen, my dear loved ones. And even from a natural perspective, you understand, we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has decided to protect this earth because of the presence of the Mawla on that earth. If it was not for His presence, the earth would cease to exist. See the rahmah that we have just simply because of His existence. The least that we can thank Allah for, subhanahu wa ta'ala, for sending us this Mawla, allowing us to be amongst His Shia, is that He has rahmah upon us, that He doesn't allow this earth to cease to exist. He doesn't rain down His punishment upon us because that Mawla is on this earth, my dear loved ones. And there is a supplication that the Imam he recites. And this supplication can give us an understanding truly of how we can live our lives properly. It gives us a roadmap, a picture. It gives us a picture of how we can live our lives in His ghaibah. Allahumma arzuqna tawfiq al-ta'ati wa bu'd al-ma'siyah. Oh Allah, give us the success, the tawfiq of obeying You, being an obedient servant towards You. We talked about this in previous nights. There's a difference between ibadah and being an abd. There's a difference between an act of worship and being a worshipper. Between holding a sibha and then you go and harass someone. You pray Salatul Layl and then you yell at individuals and harass individuals and harm individuals. There's a difference between being an abd and only ibadah, my dear loved ones. The Imam says, "Oh Allah, give me the tawfiq of being an abd, an obedient servant, wa bu'd al-ma'siyah, and distance me from ma'siyah." Distance me from ma'siyah means distance me from the places that ma'siyah exists. Distance me from those friends I shouldn't hang out with. Distance me from situations that may lead for me to engage in ma'siyah. Distance me from those things. وَصِدْقِ النِّيَّةِ, and having a pure intention. Right now, let's say you prepare a large meal at your home and you spend all day cooking this meal. You spend all day cooking this meal and you bring the best food and you prepare your home and then you invite some friends. And then you invite someone specific to make fun of him in your gathering. Where's the niyyah here, my dear loved ones? Sidq niyyah means I have a pure intention. I do things for the right reason. When your friends tell you, oh, call him up, let him come over. But not for the right reasons. We have to have sidq niyyah. Let me have pure intentions with my a'mal. When I get up and I pray in the masjid, let me not do it for riya. When I give sadaqah, I don't have to tell everybody, you know what, yesterday I gave $5, the other day I gave $10. No. Have sidq niyyah, my dear loved ones. وعرفان الحرمة. عرفان الحرمة has multiple meanings. First of all, meaning what is haram and what is halal. Oh Allah, teach me what is haram. Allow me to understand what is haram. And this is one meaning. The other meaning is hurma, means sanctity. We say hurmatul masjid. Hurmatul masjid. Meaning when I come to the masjid, I don't treat it like a social hall. Like I'm here to hang out with my friends and as soon as I sit down, I'm talking and chatting and doing ghibah and having fun until the end of when I'm about to leave. Hurmatul masjid. Respect this place. When you come in, lower your voices. Have respect for the masjid. An-nafs al-muharrama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, An-nafs al-muharrama. Why is the nafs sanctified? You cannot go and take people's lives because the nafs is sanctified. Help me understand what is sanctified. Hurmatul masjid. An-nafs al-muharrama. When we wear ihram, why is it called ihram? Because certain things become haram upon us. We are wearing something that is sanctified, something that sanctifies our actions. We cannot argue when we're in a state of ihram. Allow me to understand what is sanctified and how to treat those sanctified things with respect, my dear loved ones. وَأَكْرِمْنَا بِالْهُدَى وَالْإِسْتِقَامَةِ, and bestow upon us with guidance, with huda. Guide me to the right path, وَالْإِسْتِقَامَةِ. Some of us, we can have hidayah, right? Hidayah. And there are those that said, Amanna billah. Amanna billah. After it is istiqamah. Amanna billah. And then istiqamah, meaning I rise to that challenge of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we just mentioned, being an abd. I hold steadfast. I'm patient in challenge. Istiqamah means that when life throws challenges at me, I stand up strong. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this karamah. It's a true karamah. It's a blessing. It's something that honors us, my dear loved ones. وَسَدِّدْ أَلْسِنَتَنَا بِالصَّوَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, and safeguard and guide and protect our tongues by allowing our tongues to speak truthfully, properly, not say the wrong things, and having hikmah when we speak. Having hikmah when we speak. When you sit with someone and someone's having a challenging time in their life, they're stressed, they have some issue they're facing, and instead of giving them some confidence, reassurance, you say, you know what, you're right. Everything is bad and everything is not going to get better and there's no point in any of this. This is not hikmah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us hikmah in what we say, in what we speak. When to say the right things, where to say specific things, when not to say specific things. It may not be that you're saying something haram, but it's unwise to say it. Sometimes not speaking is wise. If we don't have something nice to say, we don't even say it. Not speaking is a sign that we're thinking. We're actively processing. We're thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. We're thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. When we have silence, it's a sign of wisdom. It's a sign that I'm perpetually thinking. I'm trying to retain some information, some knowledge, take in some ilm. So sometimes not speaking is even wise, my dear loved ones. And not only that, my dear loved ones, the Imam continues in this dua. If you'd like me to continue, please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala. وَامْلِئْ قُلُوبَنَا بِالْعِلْمِ وَالْمَعْرِفَةِ, and fill our hearts with ilm, with knowledge, and knowing you, knowing your Prophet, knowing your wali, the wali, our Mawla, Sahib al-Amr. Fill my heart with that. وَطَهِّرْ بُطُونَنَا مِنَ الْحَرَامِ وَالشُّبْهَةِ, purify our stomachs from that which is haram and which is potentially, I don't know if it's haram or halal, it's in between. Purify my stomach from that. What does that mean? Does it mean that I simply don't go and eat haram meat? No, that means that my rizq is halal. What I purchase my food with is halal. I have halal means to feed my family. Purify our stomachs from that which is haram and that which may be haram, shubha. I'm not sure. وَكْفُ أَيْدِينَا عَنِ الظُّلْمِ وَالسَّرِقَةِ, and don't allow our hands to get close or touch stealing, being a thief, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, my dear loved ones. And dhulm, when you're a zalim, when you oppress someone, it may not be that it's even physical. You may not have to go and grab someone and beat them. No. Sometimes your words can beat people worse than your fists, than any form of weapon, my dear loved ones. Your words could be daggers. Your words could be knives in people's backs. We're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not allow us to be those who have dhulm upon people. I have an individual who works under me. I'm his boss. I don't have dhulm against him. I have rahmah towards him. I have respect towards him. I treat him properly. This is what that means, my dear loved ones. وَاغْضُضْ أَبْصَارَنَا عَنِ الْفُجُورِ وَالْخِيَانَةِ. Don't allow me to look to that which I am not allowed to look at. And this is a challenge, my dear loved ones, for some of us. It's a challenge. I say, you know what? Looking doesn't mean I'm doing anything. I'm just looking. Let me look. At least let me look. But that look, my dear loved ones, is what creates thoughts in your mind. Those thoughts are what allows the shaitan to whisper, to lead you to actions. Oh Allah, don't allow me to look towards that which is not allowed for me to look at. وَاسْدُدْ أَسْمَاعَنَا عَنِ اللَّغْوِ وَالْغِيبَةِ. Don't allow me to hear ghiba. Don't allow me to hear lagh. Lagh could be any form of sin, by the way. Lagh. One day, some of the companions of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, they come to him and they're visiting from somewhere else. And they ask, and he asks them where they have stayed. So he tells them, we chose to stay at this person's house. And this person, apparently it was not a proper place to stay. It seems that the place was a place that they would have music and drink and whatever it was. Not a proper place for the Shia of Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq alayhi salam to be at, my dear loved ones. So he tells them, did you not pass by Kirama? You did not pass by Kirama? So they didn't understand what he meant, and they left. And one of the companions, he said that, when I leave, I'm going to ask my friend. So one asks another, and they said, I also didn't understand what he said. I also didn't understand what he said, my dear loved ones. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says that when we pass by lagh, we pass وَمَرُّوا كِرَامًا. We pass by kirama, my dear loved ones. We don't engage. We pass by. So the Mawla is telling his companions, why did you not pass by and find a better place? أَلَّا مَرَرْتُمْ كِرَامًا. And finally, my dear loved ones, وَعَلَى الشَّبَابِ بِالْإِنَابَةِ وَالتَّوْبَةِ. And it's upon the youth to have tawbah and inabah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However much that you've gone away from the path of Allah, get back on that track. Have tawbah. Tawbah means I return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And tawbah, my dear loved ones, for the shabab, for the youth, tawbah could be especially challenging. Why? Because tawbah requires confidence, true confidence. That I'm willing to change my life. I'm willing to change my friends. I'm willing to say that if people say I'm not cool, whatever. I'll be cool with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah is cool with me, I'm good. It takes confidence to have tawbah. And it's upon the shabab to have tawbah, inabah, to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَعَلَى الْأُمَرَاءِ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالشَّفَقَةِ. And it's upon those who rule to have adl, to have justice, to be nice, to be merciful towards others. I'll conclude with this story, my dear loved ones. The best example of leadership, of just leadership, is Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. One day, he's walking on the outskirts of Kufa. Please listen to this story. It's an incredible testament of Amir al-Mu'mineen's justice, his respect, his honor, his rule, his just rule, my dear loved ones. He's walking on the outskirts of Kufa, close to the deserts of Kufa. And he sees a man walking, and they talk to each other. And when he meets him, he learns that he's a Christian man. He continues his conversation with him. He walks with him. And the man is walking in the path of Basra. He's walking on the way to Basra. So the Imam is heading in the opposite direction of where he needs to be. He needs to go back to Kufa. This man is going to Basra. And they get to an intersection. And the Imam continues walking with this man. So he tells him, isn't your destination Kufa? Don't you have to go back to Kufa? Why are you continuing walking with me? And he tells him, because my leader, my brother, my nafs, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, Allahumma salli. He taught me that if I have a friend, I must accompany him. I must walk with him for at least 40 paces. And that's what I'm doing. And the man tells him, I'm your friend. We just met. We've spent 15, 20 minutes together. And then he says, you know, where you live, you must have a good leader that teaches you, that gives you proper guidance. And then he says, before they depart, he says, let me ask you your name. He says, my name is Ali ibn Abi Talib. He tells him, you're Ali ibn Abi Talib? You're the Khalifa here. You're the ruler here. And then he says, Wallah, innaha min akhlaq al-anbiya. Your akhlaq are amongst the akhlaq of the prophets. The akhlaq of the infallibles. And that Christian man was led to Islam through the actions of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. This is the understanding that when we are leaders, when we are rulers, when we have a position of power, we respect. We have honor, dignity towards people. We have mercy, shafaqah, and adl. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على